Welcome to the Lost Rewatch. We're into season 6. Oh my gosh. This season probably is going to be a funny season because a lot of people love it and a lot of people hated it.
What? There's people that hate this?
There's people that hate, and it's funny. I'm watching the first 2 episodes. I'm like going, what's to hate?
I'll tell you.
But I'm sure there's people out there that will tell me.
I thought people begged to see the temple storyline. What?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Anyway, how's it going, guys?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Very good.
Thank you.
So we have LAX Part 1, and I still remember. I got to see this in Hawaii, so I was fortunate enough to see this in Hawaii.
Ooh.
But that's I don't have a prop or anything, but I can kind of brag that I saw this in Hawaii. But I remember sitting there with everybody going, huh? What? Oh, it was, and then you figure out, you go, wait, Juliet's alive? Oh my God, she's alive. She's going to live. Sawyer's going to be happily ever after.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, but Saeed does. Don't get me started.
they couldn't take them both to the temple?
Twice.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
And
it's bad when you even have the characters acknowledge that. Even Sawyer was he's a torturer. He deserves another go at it. Sarcastically talking to Kate, and I'm like, exactly.
Yeah.
So the way I always felt that the way this ritual goes in the temple, I felt like the person had to be at least mostly dead. You know what I mean? Like they can't be completely dead. And Juliet, of course, by the time they get to her, she's a goner and she dies. So I felt like I used to always get upset about that too. Like I'm thinking, why couldn't they have taken Juliet down, and did the same thing, put her in the water and do some stuff and see if we can bring her back. But I wonder if you have to be somewhat still alive to go through that process. You know how they put Saeed in the water and all that stuff. I feel like for whatever reason, I feel like that had to have happened for it to even possibly work. But maybe I'm wrong. But as Juliet fan, obviously I'm upset about this because I'm like, really? We're losing Juliet and we're keeping Saeed. I mean, and I love Saeed, but at that point, I do feel like there's more value in keeping Juliet. But
Mm-hmm.
what do you guys think about that? Do you feel like because Juliet was completely dead, maybe it would have been a waste of their time to take Juliet to the temple?
well, no, I really want to point this out since we're jumping to the beginning of LAX 2. They go from from night. It goes from night to 2. Yeah, it goes from night to day within one episode, and they're like taking this time to get out shovels and everything for dear departed Juliet when Saeed is sitting there laying there bleeding.
Don't worry about him.
Yeah,
he'll be fine.
so
Well, they knew they couldn't save him. Jack couldn't save him, so it's like, whatever.
Yeah, but I know what Ethan's saying. The urgency kind of feels like there wasn't as much urgency there should be. It's like, hey, this guy's dying. We better get him to this temple as quickly as possible if there's going to be a chance to bring him back. So to your point, it does seem like they're like, oh yeah, he's bleeding over there, but he'll make it. He'll make it.
And no matter what he did off the island, on the island, he was a loyal. He was loyal to the people he was there to help them.
Yeah.
But did they know about the temple until Jacob arrived?
No, I mean, I don't think without the instructions that Jacob gave Hurley, you're right. I don't think they knew. Did they, Jack? I don't remember that.
No.
Jin kind of knew about it,
but he didn't know what the temple did.
Right.
No, Kate. No, I guess Kate didn't know that young Ben was taken to the temple, right?
Kate knew that there was a temple.
That's a good point.
My biggest issue is, shouldn't Jacob know that once he dies, the temple water is tainted or whatever? So if they take Saeed to the temple to revive him in that manner, is he not going to be susceptible or whatever to the man in black? I don't get that.
But did he know the water was going to be tainted if he died because he had been around forever?
I blame everything on Jacob.
Who cares? First of all, you know, I know this is not the Ramblecast After Dark, but Jacob's a dick. I'm just going to come out and say it.
Yes, thank you. Yeah,
Jacob's an a-hole.
It's his fault.
Yeah, there was a very heated discussion last week about whether or not Jacob's a good person or a bad person, and I've always fallen in the notion of he's kind of in between. You know, he definitely has come across many times as being, like you said, either a dick, but then I think it's just because he's looking for his replacement. He's looking for his replacement, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get that replacement for him.
Right.
But I do.
But he's also trying to win the game against, we now know, his brother. That's
a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Because remember, he says when we have Across the Sea, everyone's favorite episode, he's, you know, Man in Black says, someday you'll have a game that you can win, or something that you can make the rules. Right. And so that's why Man in Black has to keep finding loopholes, because it's Jacob's game.
Yeah.
So does Jacob, that's what my argument, and I think most agree, at least here do, that Jacob was bringing people there. He brought them there and they died. I mean, I don't understand. Again, everyone can have a different view of this show, which is fine with me, but I fall on the side that Jacob wasn't a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you go ahead.
I'll just say that you make a really good point. Really good point.
I think if you look at it at face value, most people were like, you know, light versus dark. You know, it was set up from the very beginning, you know, white and black, the backgammon game or whatever. And so I figured like a lot of people assume see Jacob as the light versus the dark man. I mean, it was set up from the get-go with their clothing, and Jacob wearing white and, you know, Man in Black wearing the black. So I feel like people kind of hung on to that. But if you look at it a little deeper, like you were saying, he brought all the people there. Most of them died, if not all. And he just had, when you look at it, it's more of like a God type figure. And I brought this up in the last thing, and not to like shit on religion or anything, but just the fact that it's that same type of like, he'll save you, but not really. Or like, you can't have both. You can't say, well, God, you know, destroyed the home, but he thankfully saved these people when other people died. It's like he's got to be responsible for both if he's responsible for the other. So if you're saying Jacob's responsible for giving these people purpose in their life, you have to say Jacob is responsible for the direct, you know, deaths of these other characters.
I think with the show does a great job, and we've said this 1,000 times during this rewatch, is it's up to us to judge if he's good or bad, because they're constantly saying, you know, that when Ben says, we're the good guys, Michael, when we're going, well, no, you're not. And then when Frank asked Braun, he goes, we're the good guys. And Frank says, well, every time someone usually says they're the good guys, they're not. So the show is constantly making us think, which again is great for the show, because you'll have people say, no, Jacob was a good guy. He was doing what was right. And I always say, because they say he was keeping Man in Black, he was keeping darkness, evil on the island. I go, well, evil can't leave the island. If Jacob doesn't bring anybody to the island, he can't leave. So,
right.
Should Jacob just have taken his lump, say, okay, I'm going to have to stay on this island?
But it almost follows a through line with Damon Lindelof's inspiration into what he did earlier, because I see Jacob as kind of in a weird way, almost like Dr. Manhattan, right? Like he's got all this power to do all this good if he wants to, but he chooses to become apathetic and, you know, indifferent to the suffering of humans. And so that's an inspiration Damon Lindelof had, and he got to do it later. But I make that through line with people that have great power, but also choose not to do much with it.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You guys make a lot of really good points here, because that's what the writers have been trying to tell us from the very beginning, is that, you know, sometimes there's a gray line between what's good and what's bad. Right.
Right.
And I do like that. This show explores it so wonderfully, and it gives us a great chance to talk a lot about it. It's a lot of fun.
And to be fair, to be fair to Jacob, who did he has as an example to be good?
It's a really good point.
Mother.
Claudia Dream.
She was. Yeah, she was. You know, was she a good person? No.
No, absolutely not. So basically, what we're saying is this whole show. The problem with it goes back to bad parenting.
Exactly.
I mean, every single one of our characters, we all know they have had terrible upbringing. They have terrible relationships with their family and especially their parents. You know, they all have daddy problems, obviously, and that's what it is. We just blame everything on bad parenting. This show is an example of why you should be a good parent.
Exactly.
And they're all the best cowboys.
Yeah. They're what?
They're all the best cowboys.
Yeah, Jen's dad is the best parent for sure. He's like amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%.
And Jen had a really great dad, and he didn't want to be. He couldn't be associated with him.
Because it's a thankless job. Being a father is a thankless job.
So true. So true. You know, Jack, since I was since you had the opportunity to watch this, like you said, in Hawaii with all these people, I would love to know, and I know you probably shared this before, but now that we're here at this episode, what was the reaction to the crowd when you saw this opening first episode with them being on the plane and going over the island, of course, and seeing the island is supposed to be underwater? What was that reaction to the first time seeing the flash sideways?
There was a lot of gasp, but a little murmuring, you know, going up. You hear a lot of people. I know people. I just kind of looked around at people going, "Okay, it did work. Didn't work. What? Because literally had no idea what was going on."
Did you guys see when you were there? Obviously, were you getting to view both part 1 and 2 at the same time?
Yeah, we saw both. Didn't we?
You at least obviously saw part 1.
I know we saw part 1. We might have saw both parts. I don't remember. It was a long day. But it was such a incredible. You're trying to soak everything in.
Yeah,
I don't remember if we saw both parts.
Because the question I always like to ask people is that one, do you recall what did you think was going on when you saw them on the plane, and then what do you think the writers wanted us to believe was going on before it became clear what the Flash Sideways is? Because technically, you really don't know what the Flash Sideways storyline is until really the very end, until the church. In my opinion, that's when it really came clear to me what was obviously going on, until it's actually told to me what's going on. So I'm really curious, what do you guys think the writers wanted us to believe, and what did you think when you first saw it?
I'll let you guys go first.
I know I had no idea until the very last second of the show what it was. And because of this recent Damon Lindelof interview on Collider, he explained that, you know, when maybe I remember when Desmond exactly is punching Ben is like, or Charlie in the water is when he expected people to start to understand. But he also said that they obviously didn't convey that very well. And I agree. They didn't convey that well because I didn't understand it when I was watching it.
Yeah.
Well, I mentioned this also in the last episode about how I think the incident is the biggest, most epic finale of any show ever, because you literally don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know if the whole cast is going to be there, if, you know, they're all going to be dead, if, you know, all this. So I honestly thought that it was a parallel universe. And I think a lot of people did. I thought it was like a parallel universe where things were a little different. But like you said, when you started seeing the flashes, I was thinking, okay, it's crossing over. It's, you know, and then Jack with the blood on his neck, the timelines are bleeding over into each other. Like, I thought that was just for sure. They had given us a little blood on the neck as a tease. I thought that was what was happening.
Yeah, that's so when I watched this episode, my first reaction was exactly what you said. I thought, oh, this is just a alternative timeline. This is an alternative universe, whatever term you want to use.
Right.
That was my first reaction. Now, I do agree. I think as the series goes on and season 6 goes on, you start to kind of think differently. You know, you start to wonder, okay, maybe it's not this, it's something else. So there's obviously a lot of confusion. And I think it sounds like we all didn't really know for sure. I mean, we had guesses, but we didn't know for sure, of course, until that very final episode. But yeah, so that was my first reaction is, okay, this is an alternative timeline. That's all it is. They somehow have created two different, and we get to watch two different timelines is what I thought it was. But as far as like what the writers, I think at first, I think they wanted us to think that, right? That it was some kind of alternative what if kind of scenario, but it's not really a true, I don't know if they wanted us to believe that it was real. I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's all trying to throw us off, that's for sure.
It's definitely the guys behind me's fault, because in a place we make together in a purgatory land, there's no island at the bottom of the ocean with the Dharma shark.
Right.
And that's kind of like, in my notes I have, is this the worst thing Lost ever did? I think it's kind of like the same. I think it might be, because it throws off the entire season 6 of what the Sideways is supposed to be when you see the shot of the bottom of the ocean for people that take this show so seriously as we do when we study what's going on. I studied that underwater thing a lot. You know what I mean? Why would you ever think that after you see that it's some kind of purgatory heaven someone made up in their own brain that's never been to the island?
Well, I know when I saw the underwater thing, I should have went back and listened to the podcast. I gave exactly what I thought happened at the time. But I do remember thinking that, okay, maybe the island blew up and they're showing us that maybe it was being what we were seeing in the Sideways was what Jack was thinking maybe in his head was happening. I mean, I know because he was so bent on it being, correcting everything, that everything was going to be right. So I pretty much think that's what I was thinking at the time, but I had no idea what the Flash Sideways was until you get guys the very end. I was like, oh, okay, got it. I mean, I wasn't one of those people go, oh, they were dead the whole time. No.
What? Is that
what you mean? They weren't dead the whole time?
I think when Miles interpreted Juliet's last words to mean, that she said it worked, I think that's when a lot of people were like, oh, it worked. I think they really genuinely thought.
I had that in my notes, Caleb. I'm glad you said that, because that really throws the audience off.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I was like, what? What do you mean it worked?
And also with her, I know we're jumping way ahead, but with her death and the things she's saying, just like she's going in and out like Charlotte did when, she were time traveling. But with her going in and out and saying this stuff, you're like, what? I mean, Charlotte's made sense and we know why it did, but they're not traveling in time anymore. Why is she so, loopy out of it right now? And then later you find out it worked and you're like, I know there's a lot of people that were immediately like, in a parallel universe, everybody was waiting for that moment for her to reunite with Sawyer and to have that coffee and, blah, 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 have that conversation. So
let's go Dutch.
Yeah.
So I guess, go ahead, Ethan.
No, I was just going to say, you guys got me. I watched the prop last week and then I never got a chance to finish last week's episode. So I apologize if you've gone over this stuff.
How dare you?
Yeah.
I should have waited until the end. You probably just fast forward.
They really, I know Caleb will agree with me. They really gave her the heavy lifting at the very beginning of the season, Elizabeth Mitchell, and at the end. It's beautifully bookmarked. That's the scene in the end in the last episode that really first got me with the waterworks, at the end. And I really noticed for the first time how it's just like an exact mirror of this scene in this one. And it almost made me cry again thinking about the last episode. Not these episodes, the last one.
Yeah.
It was rough because, again, like we said last week, how Josh Holloway's acting just seemed to grow as the show went on. But maybe someone had said last week that, maybe it just was the writing was better for him or whatever it was. But he had a bigger range a wider range of his character. But in this episode, you're just like, yeah, you want him to kill Jack. I mean,
Sure.
I said last week, I go, this rewatch has done one thing. It's made me dislike Jack more and more and more because of his actions he takes. Now, again, I don't know if it's fair, but he does respond with emotions instead of sitting back and thinking about things.
Listen, guys, the incident is not. We don't blame Jack for this. We blame Daniel Faraday. I'm sorry. Daniel Faraday doesn't come back and convince Jack, hey, you got to detonate this bomb. I'm just saying, I love Daniel, but he caused this whole problem.
That's a good point, because he did want Charlotte back.
I was about to say, Charlotte technically
he had his reasons
she
for
died, and then Dan Faraday wanted to bring him back.
Daniel, let's blame Eloise. Come on.
Okay, that's true.
We don't blame Eloise for nothing.
Excuse me. She's the worst of the parents. She's one of the worst parents on the show.
Well, if she doesn't shoot Faraday in the back, Faraday drops the bomb, right? And the rest are not even.
That's a good question. That's a good point. Faraday would have
to be there. She can go off to.
Because if Faraday doesn't get shot, he definitely is. He's 100% is going to drop that bomb into. He's definitely going to do it. So you can. It's easy for us to blame Jack, because at this point, I think you guys talked about this last week. Jack is not an easy character to really love at this point right now. He just drives me crazy during this point of the series, and it's easy for us to kind of blame him on it. But there's a lot of things, of course, that set up to put him on that path of, hey, you know why you're here back, Jack? You're here to drop this bomb. So,
you make a good point about Faraday, because if Faraday doesn't. Faraday kept saying what's done is done, what's happened has happened. It can't be reversed. It can't be reversed. Charlotte dies. Right. Okay, I got to find a way to make this better. I need to correct, because I love Charlotte, and
that just goes back to that obsession, Jack, that a lot of these characters have of trying to think they can make things different and better, when in the end they should have known what's happened. You're not going to make a difference, and they just can't learn that lesson. Many of them. Especially Jack.
But I think with Jack, I would go back to the time that Faraday was shot, and Kate goes, he's basically telling you, we can change everything, nothing happened. I'm like going, well, Kate's going to go to jail, Jack. You did have a relationship for a while. There was something there, and he's just like, I don't care. We need to forget this all ever happened.
Yeah. Going back to Miles communicating with Juliet once she was dead, and we're told that this is what she wanted to tell Sawyer, which I know you guys had a great discussion about whether or not, what did Juliet really want to tell Sawyer there on her last few breaths. But I wonder, Caleb, was this maybe this was a hint to us? Maybe this should have been a hint that if she's saying this beyond the grave, that she's looking at what they have created in the afterlife. And for her at that moment felt real to her, like, oh, wow, it worked. And that's why she communicated that with Miles. Maybe that should have been a cue to us that, no, this is actually just viewing this special life that they created outside of after death. Maybe that should have been a clue to us, but obviously it's easiest for it obviously to catch this now on a rewatch. But I wonder if that should have been maybe a little hint to us. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think there's a few ways of looking at it, because we all know what the flash sideways is, and there's people who think that as soon as Jack closes his eyes in the finale, that then he's on the plane, like this episode, basically on the plane. That's when it starts. There's a few people that think it's just time doesn't matter, so it's just happening when it happens. And then there's the belief of like Juliet in that moment is saying like her last dying words, and is like that moment's happening simultaneously. You see what I'm saying? Like she's literally saying it, not because she's picking up from this, but it's all happening at the same time. Like that scene in the finale is happening right then because she's experiencing it right then when she's dying, AKA she's about to go into the church and whatever, so dies. Okay. So there's some people that think that. I'm not sold on the fact that what she wanted to tell Miles was it worked. I feel like Miles more likely picked up from their conversation that they were having with the vending machine and took that out, possibly. Because it just feels like I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that her and Sawyer were trying to get pregnant, and her saying it worked meant that she was pregnant.
Yeah, I mean there are theories like that. So
yeah, I know that's a popular theory. I will tell you, I've always felt like Juliet was just going. Maybe I'm sentimental, but I thought she was just wanting to tell him that I love you. You know, that was what I always thought. Because here's the reason why I feel that way. But the reason why I don't buy into the pregnancy thing is because I feel like when they're on the sub, they have a chance to get off the island, go live out their life in the 70s. You know what I mean? And I feel like if she knew she was pregnant, I just don't think she would endanger the baby. And going back to the island, knowing how dangerous that would have, that potentially could have been for them, she knew she wanted to, obviously she felt like it was important to try to save her friends and get off that sub and do this, but it was very risky. And I just feel like that if she was pregnant, I just don't think that she's careless enough to say, you know, okay, let's get off this sub. I just feel like she would have stayed on the sub with Sawyer and lived her life.
Say another character, say Miles had got on the sub instead of Kate. Totally, but I don't think they get off the sub. I think it's because she sees the way Sawyer looks at Kate.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think she just at that point, maybe it's just out of frustration or just like whatever it is. There's something every time that Kate's around, Juliet becomes she's not a confident person anymore. She doesn't know if Sawyer truly loves her. Yeah, which I think is crazy, but
I hate to be my cousin.
I talked about that in the last episode, so y'all be sure to watch that one. The viewers.
I hate to be like my cousin Vinny with the baby, but you were serious about that? Yeah. With the baby?
Yeah.
Okay. I never picked up a baby on any of it. Did they ever talk about that?
Because she goes and she doesn't drink the tea because tea has caffeine in it, and caffeine's not good for babies.
Yeah, the Ethan, basically the conversation they had is a very popular theory that some people thought that her last words to him was going to be that she was pregnant. And I was just saying, my argument is just what I know about Juliet. I find that hard to believe that she would have endangered the baby's life by getting off the sub. I feel like that if she really was pregnant, she'd say, okay, yeah, Sawyer, you're right. Let's make a life of it. Now, Jack, you make a good point, is that having Kate on the sub with them, I think does kind of taint her decision making because, like you said, she does know she's worried. She's worried, like you said, that Sawyer still has these feelings for Kate, which is true. There's still feelings there, but I don't think she hasn't quite realized how much Sawyer at this point does truly love her.
Right.
I kind of disagree because I think that out of all the characters we've seen, Juliet constantly put others before herself. So I don't find it out of the realm of possibility at all if she was indeed pregnant to risk that and go to help all these people. Okay. You know what I mean? I feel like she's already done that several times before.
She's a risk taker is what you're saying. She's willing to take the risk that of maybe her possibly dying or baby dying to try to save the others. To save others.
She's not a selfish person.
Okay. Right. She saved Ben when he was young, knowing that he would grow up to treat her like crap. She put Son and Jen on the boat before herself. We know that she's the one who wants off the island the most. And she continually, does these things that she puts others' needs above hers. And I feel like that would have been a possibility. But this is only if she happened to be pregnant.
And we talked about last week. If it did work, she goes back to being a prisoner of Ben's.
Exactly. So
do that. So
I think it's. I hate to bring it up again. It's very like Watchmen. It's very Dr. Manhattan. This thing is happening right now, but I can see it's also happening at the same time in the past or in the future. So once she crosses that threshold in her personal mind, which is past the sideways, it's past maybe ascending or whatever, she can see everything. And maybe that's the point she's at. Because I think this sideways is built by everyone to help Jack enter. Not for everyone else. Everyone else I think is different we're watching Jack.
That's another point people can take from the flight. That's why it's so interesting. Even like the very first episode and just what she says, and like you said, this could have been all along. Hey, she's speaking words from the grave, and so like this should be the afterlife. Like maybe we should have put that together. Or what afterlife? I feel like I have to put everything in air quotes.
No, it's fair.
Regarding to the Flash sideways,
Sure.
Because it's so up to interpretation in terms, just like Ethan said.
It's whatever you want to believe, which is great.
Yeah, like why the hell is Bernard hanging out working on dental patients, waiting for Jack to come in if Bernard's ready to go on to his great reward? You know what I mean? Why is he sitting there doing the paperwork of being a dentist every day just so he can smile at Jack? So hopefully that'll trigger Jack.
I think Rose knows immediately. I think she's the first person we see that already knows what's going on. Other than Eloise, I think she knows that this happened for other reasons. But I feel like when Rose says you can let go now, she's not just talking about the armrest on the airplane.
And as many problems as I have with these episodes, like and leading up to the end, like that part really hit me when she said that. You can let go now. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I didn't think about it at the time, but when you're watching the rewatch, she's saying it's time to wake up, Jack. You can let go of the past. I get.
But in Jack's purgatory, obviously Rose is needed to help Hurley out with the job situation with John Locke. So that's what Jack needs before he can move on.
Does somebody want to answer this question here? It's a good one because I think a lot of people are confused by that.
So what were the exact consequences of Juliet hitting the bomb? Did the bomb actually explode? If so, did they send the main characters into present time 2007?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and yes, I think. Right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is always, this is a very fascinating question to me too, because what I try to put my mindset in every time I watch this is, because we don't get to see it, but I really want to see like what it looked like in 1977, right? 77, whatever that years. I want to see what it looked like, because we can see is the Flash, and then of course we see the Flash sideways. But then when we actually come back to our characters, they are now, of course, in present time 2007. I would love to see what was the aftermath physically to the island, because we know obviously this is the incident that we were told about very early on. We get to see it play out. Right? I mean, they hit the pocket, then they drop the bomb goes off. I kind of always felt like it just, because normally when we explode a bomb, it would blow the island up, right? But obviously that's not the case. I just feel like that the island itself always contained all that energy, and when it did that, then it's resetting itself, and then it took our characters, which didn't belong there in the first place, and put them back to where they did belong. And I just feel like that maybe, if you were hanging around the hatch, okay, you might have been in trouble, but I feel like it probably just, I don't know, but it probably was like a giant flash, and then that was it. If you stayed there, if you did not leave, transported in time, if you actually stayed there, I think that's what you would have seen. But the consequences is interesting.
Flat off.
Yeah.
If he was there.
Yeah.
And he felt the need to make up for it.
So wasn't it like leaking radiation or something? So they had to seal it and obviously create the Swan Hatch and had to release it, the energy every 108 minutes, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think that's basically what happened. We just didn't get to see it.
Yeah, and I see in our chat room, that a lot of people did feel frustrated because it was so ambiguous, but I think that was the point, right? They wanted it to be ambiguous. They don't really, that wasn't something they were interested in fully explaining. I think they just let that up to our imagination and then wanted to get right to the point, is like what's going to happen now in 2007 and what path our characters are about to do. Like what are they supposed to do next?
And I know we had at the very beginning of the episode, you see Juliet, you continue to see her fall. So I don't know if you remember, but before this final season, they aired a recap kind of, and so you see like the whole incident scene pretty much again with Juliet and the goodbyes and all that. And then the episode starts and it's like previously on Lost, and then you see her fall again and hit the bomb. And so then it goes to Jack, and then when you come back from the commercial, you see her fall again. And I really liked how they did that. And because they showed up, like you said, present day, is it 2007, I guess? Then
Yes.
they showed up then. I was like, had already kind of said my goodbyes to Juliet. I mean, I assumed, once she hit the bomb, she's dead. Her body, I guess, is under all the rubble, just back in time. I don't know. They may have dealt. I don't know where her body went. Was the flash a time flash or whatever? So what was your impression when you hear her trying to shout out from underneath the debris? Because that really shook me. I was like, what?
Yeah, I assumed she was. I mean, I assumed going to season 6 that she was done because she was the closest to the bomb.
Yeah.
Yes. Definitely. I think everyone was surprised when we get to hear Juliet's voice yelling from down there. Now, I will admit that one of the first things that annoyed me, and I know this is really nitpicking, but I thought to myself, when you look back at the finale with the incident, she seems to fall a long way down this long hole. And then now we're expected to believe that she's just buried just a little bit under some rubble. You know what I mean? It just didn't feel like the death perception seeming the same when they with how they walk down and then they dig her up and it's like, oh, here she is. I don't know, that part kind of bothered me, but I know that's me nitpicking.
It's the same pull away shot of Jack and Locke, though. It's the same tunnel, basically, right, from season 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and see, Sawyer, Kate was even let down, like, I don't know, a little ways through, and then was dropped because Desmond captured her. So I wasn't like, oh, she survived a massive fall. How could she? Because Kate had kind of already done it in a ways. But Juliet, I think because of all, she would have, I think she would have still sustained life-threatening injuries had it not been for all the rubble that just guaranteed that. But I think I just kind of picture her hitting the bomb and just kind of like floating everywhere with all this metal and landing where they land. I don't know.
Well, those chains hit her right in her unborn baby's right in the womb, right?
And where were the chains?
Yeah.
true.
I know that's something I did notice though, that they weren't there, which is weird.
Well, they were on the side. After the bomb goes off, they kind of fall off. The magnet's not doing its thing.
Yeah, true.
She was
true.
She was wrapped in them though.
No, it was just a clump. It was just a clump. Dude, it was like Game of Thrones. They just came out of nowhere and they were gone.
Yeah. Diane in the chat says, one reason I think the flash sideways began on the plane was that Rose said, "I missed you" to Bernard when he came back from the bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he says something like, now I know how the clothes feel in the dryer, because he was in the bathroom during the turbulence. And so my thought was like, I wonder if he died like, falling down a hill on the island, because that would kind of explain his death and what he was thinking before he died. And, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, for sure. When you rewatch this part 1 of this LAX of this premiere of the final season, one of the things that strikes me is that, wow, we get almost this whole episode feels like a goodbye to Juliet. So much of it is all about saying goodbye to her. And I thought, man, they really love this character, because that's the longest goodbye we get from anyone that's about to die.
Most Lost fans liked her character. There wasn't anything I don't know anyone that didn't like her.
Yeah.
If you look at most characters, you can find something that people didn't like. Juliet,
yeah, that's true.
Nothing. They had that one spot where we didn't know she was working for Ben when she joined the Losties and stuff like that. We're like, okay, we don't kind of trust her and stuff like that. But when she goes all in, we love her, and it just sad as here we go.
It's really sad because I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you what was your reaction to seeing, because this is a beautiful goodbye for her.
Yeah, I had wrote down in my notes that it was like, what did I say? I was like, beautiful, brutal, bloody, but it was like still a beautiful goodbye. But what's so sad is that, like you said, the whole episode is kind of them trying to get her out, and the last goodbyes Sawyer has with her. But here you are. The other half of the episode is the flash sideways, which we think she kind of just created, and she's nowhere in sight.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true. It is. It was very brutal, but it was obviously extremely powerful, very powerful television. I think if you didn't get emotional and teary-eyed watching this, there's probably something wrong with you, because I know I did.
I think I choked up a little bit.
I choked. Yeah, definitely.
And I'm the least caring person in the world. No, I'm
well, this begs the question, though. So Juliet's not on the plane, but Desmond is on the plane.
Yeah.
Is Desmond on the plane?
Desmond's on the plane. He's sitting.
We do see him.
Yeah.
We see him, but no one else sees him. Just Jack.
But we're in Jack's purgatory.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. We're in Jack's purgatory. So Frogurt obviously had to be in Jack's purgatory. You know what I mean? He didn't know how to eat, but he had to be there.
Well, Desmond also sees Claire in the baggage claim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted because the whole time I'm sitting here, I wanted to go back to the underwater scene where we see where they show us and then they go lost and then they have the thing floating through and we see everything that's on the island underwater. Mm-hmm. Bear with me on this one because I've been thinking about this the whole time we've been talking since we talked about the water. Could, when the bomb went off, could the island have sank? And
sure,
because you have Kate's in a tree, everyone's scattered all over the place. Could the island have sank and it rejuvenated itself and came back up? Now the people on the island don't realize it because they're unconscious and all the other stuff. But the island, maybe that's what they were telling us. The island did sink from the bomb. It rejuvenated, but the island wanted to keep these people alive. So they were just, and once the island comes back, rejuvenates itself, it comes back and no one knows what had happened. Just throwing it out there for,
That's an interesting theory.
I'm just throwing it out there because it's always there had to be a reason why they showed us.
Well, I'll let these guys mention this, but I think we're kind of in agreement. I do think the writers want us to believe that. When you first see that, I think they want us. First reaction goes, "Oh my God,
the island sunk."
The island sunk,
and it worked.
From the bomb.
Here's the new storyline we're going to be following for the rest of the show.
Right. That's what I thought was happening.
And then the commercial break happens, and then they show them back on the island, and I think that's when people were like, "Oh, so the flash sideways is just where the island isn't in play anymore. It's just it's not factored in."
When we catch up with our characters in the current timeline of 2007, they're all scattered all over the place, and of course they can't hear, right? And your immediate reaction to it is that this is exactly what happened to the people that were near the hatch when it exploded, whatever term you want to use there, when it went off. Do you think, is there any significance to that? Because we know there's this energy pocket that's underneath that area that's extremely powerful, that powers this island somehow, right? And anytime it's disturbed, something really, this amazing, powerful force happens, and anyone that's around it, it doesn't kill you, but it might put you somewhere and you can't hear for a while. So I thought that was kind of a nice little throwback to what happened when we got to witness what happened with the hatch. And what season was that? My mind's not working.
Start of season 3, right?
3, yes. What did you guys think? Did you feel that way? That they purposely did that, obviously, to kind of give us that feeling, right?
I remember everybody was like, "What's wrong with my TV?" and was like grabbing the remote. The volume, something's wrong. Fix it. And then you quickly realize, oh, okay. I don't want to miss anything. Turn the volume. What happened?
There are 3 major times in the show where something happens, you don't see what happened, but someone's always like this in a tree or on a rock.
Yeah.
And that was this time, and that happened at the Yajira flight, and it happened with Jack in the last episode. You don't actually see the explosion or where they land, but they're disoriented and they're waking up on a rock in a weird position. But nothing's broken. But yeah, I did think what you think. Everything with like the loud explosion at the end of season 2, the electromagnetic effects of the island. I thought, yeah, that was definitely one of the things that happened there.
Did you guys want Kate to fall out of that tree?
No. No.
Well, we don't have any of our Kate haters on here, do we, Jack? These are all Kate lovers. Okay.
Well, lover is a strong word, but you know.
Strong word. But what a terrible place, by the way, to come out of this.
Yeah.
You're hanging from a tree. Like, that's not a good idea.
But what if you're Hugo and you wind up in a tree? It's a much worse position. Speaking of the gentleman.
I felt like it was almost the writer's way of saying, we like to tease you guys that something might happen to Kate because we all know poor Kate. There's a lot of haters on Kate.
Well, she ended up on the rocks on when the Jira, right? She was Kate on the rocks.
Yes, yeah.
Ain't no big surprise. Come on,
well, the last time we see Jack, Kate, and Sawyer in the incident is, right before it pans down to show Juliet's still alive, and you have Kate who's like standing over, kind of like, oh my God, watching all the metal fall. And then you have Jack who has pulled Sawyer. I'm being really animated tonight, so sorry. And then you have Jack who's like pulled Sawyer, off. And of course, when you see them, they're just kind of laying in the grass nearby, like just both knocked out. And so I always thought like, okay, Juliet hit the bomb and Kate like flew up in the tree. That's just
but from a pure TV show making perspective, Kate is the sex of the show.
Yeah. Okay.
So they're always going to have her by a stream. They're going to have Sawyer with a shirt off and her by a stream, like squeezing out her clothes or climbing down from a tree. That's the way I see it anyway.
Sure.
All these,
but to show you, that's not all I'm thinking about. I do want to throw out there, since we're talking about Kate for a second. She literally has my second favorite in the end moment. Or she has two of my favorites. Her waking up with the baby, I love, and also when she leads Jack into the room with his father, I love that too. So she had to stay around for all that stuff.
What about the "I missed you so much" scene?
Yeah,
I love that one almost even more than her in the truck with cars. Jack, her in the truck with Jack. Sending him in.
Yeah. Oh yeah, after that, yeah. Like the whole thing, that whole last episode. That it's kind of why I forgive a lot of things I don't like, especially coming up, is just because the last episode hit me so hard.
I know there was a lot of, they were still advertising things about, Jack and Kate or Sawyer and Juliet, who's going to be together, blah, 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 blah. And, I really liked how Kate ran to Jack first, even though both of them were laying there. I was like, see, it's important.
But
them too.
See, Juliet, see? She loves Jack. She doesn't love Sawyer, so get over it.
We know, based on Juliet's past experiences, why she felt that way.
Oh yeah, well, I understand. Back to Miles reading, because Sawyer goes, "Hey, Miles, you want to stay behind? Help me." Sure, boss. They still have that. Stop calling me boss. And he just wants him to talk to Juliet. And I don't know why he had to bury her first before they talk to her. But did you think Miles? That's all that she said, or is that just what Miles told?
No, because he did the shaky thing. He did the shaky thing.
I know he did the shaky thing, but he didn't want to? Come on, let's go. There's some Dharma beer, and for Sawyer to turn down Dharma beer, come on, that's it. It'd be like Roger Linus turning down, Dharma beer. There's no way. But he goes, no, talk to her, and he pulls, puts Miles down, and holds his. Because because you can see that Miles has respects Sawyer now. He's like, they are like buddies. He'll do anything for him. And that 3 years, that's where they developed and that's why we see them in the Flash Sideways probably together. But and also when he was around Saeed, he's like looking at him, and he knows he's not dead yet, or he's not, because Hurley goes, what? And he goes, nothing. Because I think he's trying to read Saeed, and he can't. Saeed's not talking to him, and he finds it strange.
Are you
in the temple?
In the temple, yeah.
Oh. I think he knows that Saeed's not dead.
Yeah,
because he can't get a read on him.
Yeah, he can't get a read.
He's not dead.
But they said he's dead, and he's like, no, he didn't say anything, but you could tell in his face he wasn't.
Yeah, because he goes and because Hurley goes, "What, dude?" And he goes, "Nothing."
Nothing. Yeah, because he knows he's not dead, but he can't say, "I know for a fact he's not dead. I just don't know why you guys are saying he's dead when he's not."
Right.
Yeah.
Because they put him in the dirty water.
Yeah, the dirty water. That didn't because Dogen cuts himself, and it doesn't heal.
And they do it anyway.
True.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Why were the people in the temple so afraid of the Losties when they were walking through there? It was almost like Planet of the Apes when Charlton Heston's walking through.
I have a better question. Why are the people of the temple? Period. The question mark.
Yeah, I have that same question.
It's just so frustrating. The whole temple thing is so annoyingly frustrating to watch to me this time around.
Yeah, my favorite part of the whole temple stuff is when the smoke monster attacks everyone.
Yeah, and destroys it.
just get rid of this.
Because they build up this temple thing, and they have first of all, it's the guy from Westworld, it's All Star, right? And we have they bring in these heavy hitting actors that we've seen before, like Jonathan Hawkes. They have no idea what's going on. They have no idea.
John Lennon.
Huh?
That was John Lennon.
No, it's All Star from John Hawkes. Come on, man. From Deadwood. Come on, it's your favorite.
He looks like John Lennon to me.
At the glasses. But they have no idea what's going on. Like, they don't know who these people are. They don't let them in. They don't know that they're candidates.
Yeah, they're definitely not informed very well.
They have no information. They don't know anything's wrong. They don't know that their spring isn't fresh anymore. It was frustrating. Sorry, you get emotional.
And what was Cindy doing there?
Chilling out, acting like she's better than the people that were on the plane.
Right.
She's like, they're from the
those are those people from the plane I was on.
How many different accents does she have?
That's a great question.
And why is it important that she gives him one drink instead of two? Why is that the first signifier in somewhere else? And that happened before the big plane crash. That was a thing as well.
When you see the Losties walking through the temple, kids are running to their mom. It's like, oh my God. They're like, oh, who are these people?
Because they're wearing jeans.
Well, I think because they've never seen they've never been outside the temple. Right?
They've been cooped up in that temple too long.
It just to me was weird. I go, why are they afraid?
There's horrible Wi-Fi in that temple.
Being killed by guns. I mean, it was like.
You think they'd be? Do you think they'd be happy and to say, "Hey, is this the guy who created that amazing mayo, that special mayo that I heard all about?"
With the garlic.
Yeah,
the garlic mayo.
Maybe they'd be okay. Maybe if they had a drop shipment over there once in a while, it wouldn't have been so bad for them. They wouldn't have had such a rough go of it.
So the people in the temple were they just there were they left over from the hostiles, or were they
brainwashed?
Yeah. Why was Cindy there? That just always bothered me.
Didn't she go over to watch some of the kids whose parents died on the original flight and they just kept her? Wasn't she there, keeping guard over kids?
Zach and
washed.
Was Zach and was the girl's
Emma.
name? Emma. So I don't know.
I mean,
funny?
It was so stupid.
It is dumb.
I'll take this moment to circle back to Juliet for just a second.
Please.
He wasn't in the temple.
So when I shared this on Twitter or whatever, I did the quote, and we didn't talk about that. About how when she first wakes up and Sawyer finds her, he's like, "You hit the bomb. Why?" And she's like, "I wanted you to be able to go home. I wanted to make it so that you never came to this damn island." And she says it didn't work. So that's also another moment of she just said it didn't work, and then you have Miles saying it worked, which also plays into the fact of it did work. But I think I had this as my Facebook cover photo for a long time. But somebody juxtaposed an image of her saying that, laying there all bloody, saying, "I wanted you to be able to go home," with her in One of Us after she saw her sister on the screen when Ben took her to the station to see her sister, and she turns around and tells Ben, I want to go home. And then you have this, I wanted you to be able to go home. So I'm such a Juliet fan, and I just felt like that was so, selfless. And as I said in the last episode, I think that, her hitting the bomb was the closest thing to altruism that you're ever going to see in anything, because, although she's doing it for someone else, technically, she knows where she's going to end up, which is back kidnapped by Ben, all that. So she has like this foreknowledge of what's going to happen, which I feel like with most altruistic acts, you don't really know that. So that just adds that extra layer.
But it's like going back to high school with the brain you have right now. Is she going to have all that knowledge? Because if she could do it over again with the knowledge she has now, I mean, does that make sense?
No, no, they weren't going to know.
Oh, they weren't going to know. Well, then, yeah.
If Sawyer and her would have stayed on the sub, they'd be billionaires by now, because they would have invested in Microsoft, Apple.
That's right. See, I'm selfish. That's the route I would have gone. I would have gone.
I would say, is Jack? I'm not following Jack anywhere. He's David in the chat said, "Is the temple heaven, and they're not sure who they are and how they found it?"
I never thought about that.
My version of heaven, though, the angels don't have guns.
Maybe they're in hell and they don't know they found it.
You're right. I feel like the temple feels more like hell than heaven, but
little hot for heaven, friend. Sorry.
Anthony Cooper. Yeah, Anthony Cooper's not in the temple, so it can't be hell. And Kate's mom's not in the temple, so it can't. And all the parents except Jen's dad's not in the temple.
Was one of the funniest scenes from the first part one, was one of the funniest scenes when the man in black, of course, AK and the Locke's body, was one of the funniest scenes him approaching Richard and then beating the hell out of him. I don't know, this makes me sound like a terrible person, but I always laugh my ass off every time I see him punch him and knock him down like that, because it's the whole time Richard's face is like, he's like, because he realizes who it is now, and it's just like, I love that scene. Well, and of course, we get the payoff line with the chains thing. We get that later on, but it was great. I just thought it was...
When they sent up the flare, he knew that Jacob was dead. Wasn't that the...
Oh, definitely. That was clue number one, what was going on.
Because because Ben comes out and goes, John wants to see you. John wants to see me?
Yeah.
He takes Ben over. And Ben's like, I don't know what's going on, man. Please.
But watching that scene for the first time, you're so into, like, one of the biggest things is you want to know more about Richard, right? And you get so much on his face and what's going on. And, I was
it says everything.
Yeah. And you need to, I'm an idiot when it comes to stuff like this. You have to beat me over the head, because I'll watch this thing 4 times and still say, so John Locke is the smoke monster, in some way. So they basically did that, right? But you still don't know Richard's connection to it, and you still don't know that story,
right?
Which is one of my favorites. And it was.
They did finally answer that question.
Yes. Yeah, that line gets paid off, like I said, later on. But the whole scene is so funny too, because you got Frank when they walk past. Frank's like, "I'm seeing it, but I don't believe it."
Frank's the best. Frank.
He's the fan, absolutely.
100%. Either. I mean, Frank and Juliet are the 2 best characters on the show.
Can we talk about the absolute worst for a second?
Sure.
I thought we already did, but go ahead.
I just saw him in an episode of The Office.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
He goes after Pam.
Yeah.
Yes. So they're breaking like the 4th wall in the show right now. I'm watching it for the first time. No spoilers.
I remember watching it. I hadn't watched it before, but I forgot you.
But
no spoilers.
I'm telling you, Bram has no future with Pam. Sorry. Spoiler alert.
I was going to say the correct answer is no. There are no funny moments in the episode. We are still in mourning, and we need to respect that. So
okay, that's fair.
Technically, we're still in mourning to this day, so we need to just be mindful of that. And
wait, I'm not done talking about what an idiot this guy is.
Oh God,
his character
does the ash
continue.
around him.
What was that ash before Jacob was dead?
Yeah,
Anyone?
It worked for a split second.
No,
okay.
it didn't work, because right away, this is a really smart smoke monster. he's trying some Count Dooku Yoda stuff. He's like, "You're doing this, but there's walls here. You should have done this outside, you idiot." You know,
Caleb, is there any? Maybe Caleb might know, but is there popular theories about the whole ash thing? I mean, what? I mean, obviously they, at some point, he had heard that it would work to put the ash around him. Obviously, like you said, the smoke gas monster was way too smart for that. I never heard any great theories that I like, so that's why I figured I'd ask you guys.
There was a. I know when they were going to the cabin.
Mm-hmm.
In the incident, he goes, the ash has been broken. There's a gap there, so they obviously believe the ash will protect them. Okay. But like I said, what is the ash? That's a great question. I don't think I ever heard.
Great question.
It has to be something that the smoke monster can't.
In my mind, I got everything jumbled up and thought maybe the ash is Jacob's ashes, but it's not because.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I was thinking that maybe it was like actual people's ashes that were important to the island or something.
Spreading it pretty liberally if it's people's ashes. Pretty liberal spreading.
Well, a lot of people have come to the island and died, and Jacob does have that little fire pit there.
Because Jacob did that, and he brought them there, and they died.
Yes. A lot of time on his hands, so that could be,
because he's a.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't pay close attention. Did he have the ashes on him? Like, was it?
Yeah.
On
he had like a bag, like the thing you used to drink water in, those little leather canteen things.
Yeah, he totally came prepared.
Your stones.
So obviously, since these are Jacob's people, obviously they must have gotten this information from Jacob.
Right.
So there's definitely some significance. I just feel like this is I hate to dog the writers here, but I think this is one that kind of like, maybe if you're really going to show it, then maybe you should have some kind of explanation to it. But we never really, I think, got anything that satisfied everyone.
Well,
whatever.
I really want to double down on what Caleb said about the incident being the best, like, end of the show ever. There's a really sharp turn starting with this episode. And I think it, like, half of the stuff in the sideways is completely off the rails and completely useless to the entire story. That's why this season is really frustrating to watch. And like the incident is the last episode that I get excited for on a rewatch until like the very end, or like of Turno, because all this sideways action-y stuff is it seems really, really pointless to the whole arc of the show.
Well, that's actually that's one of the things I wrote in my notes. I feel like that most hardcore Lost fans probably feel this way, is that when you rewatch Lost and you get to this final season, I do feel like it's very painful for me to go through the sideways stuff. I almost want to skip through it. I think it works great for your first watch, but I think when in a rewatch, it's really hard for me to because of the point you just made, Ethan. Is just like, why am I watching this? Because I just feel like the only thing that's important to me is what's going on in the present timeline.
There's not enough joy of seeing Kimi to get me through. Ooh, Kimi, great big deal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and the infuriating things, the absolutely infuriating things, are anything having to do with Nadia, anything having to do with Nadia, anything whatsoever, and anything having to do with, like, in this episode, we know in the future we'll find out that Sawyer is a cop, but he doesn't act like any kind of cop that we know of in this episode when he lets the escaped prisoner go, and it helps her escape out of the elevator. Do you guys think they knew he was going to be a cop when they wrote this episode?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think he knew. I think he knew what the code was.
Okay. There you go.
There's also like other annoying things, like you see Jen treating Sun like shit again, and it's like, okay, we watched him have all this progress throughout the show to be a better husband, and then now we're back to this. Are we going to have to see him do that over? So you're already like, this has been done, and then Kate's running around again, and you're like, oh god, here we go.
But there was for Locke, because I'm a big Locke basher. And I think a lot of people are.
Yes, I am too. Yeah,
he's an easy target.
I only back him. He sucks. Sorry, I'm changing back.
But you have Ben and and Man in Black are talking, and they're talking about Locke. Do you know what he said? He goes, "I didn't, not Jacob. I'm talking about Locke when you were killing him." And then he goes through this whole thing. Locke was pathetic. Locke was this. Locke was, Man in Black and he's basically just tearing Locke down. But then we see Locke in the afterlife, or the sideways world. He's talking to Boone, and he's the guy the Locke that we like, and because we don't. Before we know Locke's backstory, when he first gets on the island, he's the guy playing backgammon. He's the guy that's going to be the hunter. Well, again, it's not until he saw the smoke monster that Locke became that obsessive, pathetic person that he is. But he talks to Jack. When he's talking to Jack, he goes, "No, that wasn't your dad. You're missing the casket, not your dad." And he was the wise Locke. That was the Locke that, if he just would have not been so obsessed on the island. Of course, we don't have a show if that's that's not the case. But I think the Flash Sideways actually brings his character back to being, it also helps me on one of my theories I always had, that Locke was once a patient of Jack's, because eventually he becomes a patient of Jack's in the Flash Sideways. So that helped me. So
I really like the conversation that the Man in Black has about Locke, because I think it humanizes Locke even more. And even more sympathy for Locke that kind of wasn't there when you didn't know that this guy wasn't.
And even Ben seemed like it's like, yeah, I feel like you could see in his face, like, wow, I shouldn't have killed him, maybe,
And also, last thing I'll say is Sideways Locke also has all this baggage about hurting his father.
Yeah.
So he's already been through a lot on the different kind of one, so that might come from there.
What I love about what the Man in Black tells us during that moment, because, by the way, Terry Quinn's just so phenomenal in this part, and I love how the way he says that is exactly what us, the fans, are thinking about at the time, is like, how pathetic, like how sad is poor John Locke's storyline. Because I remember one of the first times I was on here for the Lost Rewatch, I made this joke about what is the one character you would least likely or least want to jump into their body. Like if you were to just pop into one of their bodies, which one would you? And I always say, of course, John Locke. I don't want to be John Locke ever. This is the most saddest story ever. And I just love that, because I feel like the Man in Black is saying exactly what we're thinking is, wow, how sad is this man's life? It's kind of heartbreaking though, too.
Oh, it is, because, what his dad put him through, what he went through as a child. I mean, he was bullied. He was, you understand why John Locke is the way he is.
Yes.
And, it's like he goes, he always wanted to be something. Even when his teacher told him, he goes, "You'll never be the quarterback. Don't tell me what it is in high school." He goes, "Don't tell me what I can't do," because he always wants to be more than what he is. And I think a lot of us, I mean, most of us probably want, it's hard to accept sometimes who we are or whatever it is. But,
for sure.
But especially for him, because he just wants to be loved. He just wants to, just wants his parent, and his mom sold him out. His dad obviously sold him. His dad could have got the kidney, and it didn't have to have a relationship with him.
But he was loved, and he didn't choose her. He continued to choose his dad over and over and over.
Again, I'll go back. We'll just disagree on this. Helen was using him. She was
working. No, she was not. Stop saying that.
She was working with Anthony Cooper.
I will take.
He was not.
I've never heard you say, "I'm into bald guys." Right then, that I go, okay, she's full of crap.
Anthony Cooper may be worse than Eloise. I take back what I said.
Yeah, he's definitely worse than Eloise.
Anthony Cooper is probably worse than Eloise.
Oh, okay, hands down.
If we're going to bring up Eloise, we're going to have to understand that she's one of the most sympathetic characters on the show, and understand why she did what she did and what tough of a position she was in, because she basically kept the whole timeline intact, if we want to get right down to it.
No, she definitely does. Anthony Cooper, like you guys, that's the worst person for sure, hands down. I mean, would you really think about it? Like, I can't think of anybody too much more terrible than that person at all.
Hey, being a dad is a thankless job.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yes, as the comments, you trying to hide that comment real fast? Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, Helen loved John, but unfortunately, he was too obsessed with his father.
If he was the best cowboy, he was the best cowboy.
If you truly love someone,
yes,
throw him out a window.
Yeah, exactly. You support
Throw him
them no
out the
matter
window.
what.
The window.
He went to the was helping his dad with and she just, I'm leaving. Really? That's what you're leaving over? Nah, she's. No,
She warned him. She warned him. She's like, I'm leaving if you go there again. He's like, cool, and he went there again.
Yeah. But guys, once you understand John Locke, you should not be surprised at all that he's making this poor choice and to continue this obsession with his father. He is so broken because of what has happened in his life that you're right, Caleb. He can't see what's in front of him. This woman who does care about him, he can't see that. He's just so focused in on this because he's just so broke. He wants his father's affection and love so badly that he's willing to throw everything away for it. That's what makes him so sad.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
my
it's really
God,
like
it's heartbreaking.
the cycle of abuse, and continuing to go back to your abuser in the same way Kate's mom did.
John represents so many people that you meet in real life that are hurt and broken because of very similar situations. That's what makes his storyline so powerful.
And if he just I feel like he believed in himself in all the wrong ways.
Yeah,
like if he just believed in himself instead of everything he could cling on to, then he would have been a better human.
Right. For sure.
But with Terry, when we go back to Terry O'Quinn's acting, I used the still shot of his anger face.
Yeah.
And because to me, I go,
so scary.
That is so
very
powerful. Because even Locke, when he was angry and mad, he didn't have that face. I mean, he did. That is that's a guy that's evil, a guy that just wants to go home. Literally just wanted to go home. He's he's such a fantastic actor.
Yeah.
And again, it put even though it was a different character Terry O'Quinn was playing, him and Michael Emerson are just gold. They're just money. I mean,
And there's so much to that. Another thing when I think of the last episode is his smile outside the church.
Right.
He's talking to Ben. It kind of encapsulates the whole character for me in a way that makes me not feel bad for him. When you guys think of John Locke as a tragic character, I don't think so. Maybe I'm buying into the sideways now because he comes full circle in the sideways. Kind of. So, hey, I got a question about what the Man in Black said about John Locke for you guys.
Okay.
I have no answers.
Well, I know that. I'm asking the other two.
The answer is Juliet is the best and always will be, and she died for her sins. Thank you.
I want to get a Juliet chess piece here, like you see people with the Jesus one, just Juliet right here. Okay.
Yeah.
Juliet's the real Jesus. We should make those shirts right now.
This is basically the cross.
WWJD.
People are going, yes.
Brilliant.
People are going to be like, this is sacrilegious. We got
Jack, we got
we
got some money making ideas here for you for the site.
Hey, I'm all about the money.
Crazy Hank. If we Geek Dad Life, take note. Okay.
He's probably already stole it.
Yeah, right. If the Man in Black just said the only thing he wanted to do the opposite, and John Locke was the only one that didn't want to go back to his pathetic life, but he wants the opposite, which is I just want to go home. He doesn't know what home is. Home is just across the sea. That's as specific as it gets to where the Man in Black is from, right? Across.
But he knows it's not the island. He hates the island.
But he doesn't know what home is.
Yeah, but he
hates the island because he's been he's trapped.
He's trapped there.
Well, he does know what home is because he went and spent time living with Claudia's, his mother's people.
Well, there you go.
Remember, they built the thing, so he knew from them where probably she came from. They all came from, so he probably knows where home is.
So is the question, Ethan, do we...
Right?
I mean, yeah, but it just seems like such a big idea to narrow it down to a place to me. I just want to go home to Egypt.
I know what you're trying to say.
Greece
what is home to him?
Whatever. Yeah.
What is home to him? I mean, it's a very good question, but I think I've always looked at it is that I don't know if he knew exactly what would happen if he left the island. I just know that he wanted to get off the island no matter what.
Because it's all he ever wanted.
That's all he ever wanted.
Yeah, but he's talking about how he wants to go to a place, and I'm thinking
That's true. That's a fair point.
To leave a place. He doesn't want to go to.
What did he?
What from one place?
This is a good question. What was home to him? Is that what you're asking?
Kind of, yeah.
Plus, he's been on that island for how many years?
Well, right. There's a lot of speculation about that, but obviously thousands of years.
Several thousand years. Yeah.
So his home, he'd get there and be like, "What are cars? What's going on here?"
I mean, he's been there since man only had 4 toes.
Yeah.
So this is my problem.
And grass is always greener, right? So maybe he gets off the island. I should have stayed on the island.
He's going to get off the island and go, how many World Series did the Yankees win? My God.
He's definitely a Padres fan.
Oh, well, that goes without saying, right?
That could be. I always think Man in Black is Spanos, but that's okay.
So, no, Jacob is. So Jacob has been doing this for like all these years. Okay. So Jacob's been doing this for all these years.
Right.
Could he not have cut the Man in Black, his brother, some slack when he's able to time travel back and forth here and there, whatever? Could he not have went to the place where they were originally from and been like, hey, you were right. Our mother was actually crazy and like helped him out. Like, did Jacob not think of like, I don't know, empathy during these 1,000 years?
But you can't win the game doing that.
Yeah, because he's obsessed with playing this game and manipulating people's lives and trying to be this God figure and pretend he's helping when he's just trying to get what he wants, which is just to die and be done with all that.
If young Man in Black just would have let not Ethan,
let Jacob win the game.
Let Jacob win just one game. Hey, sometimes don't you feel bad? Like when I'm playing games with my grandkids, once in a while I let them win.
How is it to dunk on a 2-year-old, Jack? Let's
They're going to grow up and resent you. You cannot do that.
Suck it up, man. Suck it up, Buttercup.
Hey,
you lucky I don't throw your butt out the window.
Can we look at one of the things I want to examine is that maybe we should be looking at this more of that. I feel like Jacob is a little naive and dumb. I think that his brother is so much smarter than him because I think about the moment where Jacob dies. Okay, he gets stabbed and he's about ready to push him into the fire. And the first thing Jacob does to him is warn him, hey, they're coming. Why is he doing that? I don't know. I feel like their perception of what's going on is so different from one another. And I think just shows to me, I just feel like Jacob is just naive and dumb compared to his brother. And I guess I'm not saying anything too surprising here.
You see that across the sea because I have arguments with people all the time. I think a big part of why people don't like Across the Sea because Jacob was supposed to be godlike. He was supposed to be the smart, everyone on the island. Oh, Jacob. And you see Jacob as a kid, you go, yeah, I'm not following this guy anywhere. I'd follow Man in Black because Man in Black is smart. Man in Black thinks. Man in Black can beat me at this. I can't remember the game, but he beats me at this game all the time. And he's the guy. He's the guy that should have been the leader. And I think that's why Mother kills him because.
Well, as you guys are obviously Lost experts. I feel like most Lost experts, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that their impression of what's going on with Jacob and the Man in Black is that the game is for me, I feel like the game is, can the Man in Black find a way to get off the island? That's the end game for him. Right. And Jacob's, of course, is that correct? Do I have the right feeling with that?
I think it's Jacob's game.
It's Jacob's game, but it's Jacob's game to keep him from leaving.
Right. And Jacob, he has to keep trying to find loopholes because Man in Black, they always say, well, Jacob was there to keep evil on the island. Well, then don't bring anybody to the island. Evil can't leave. And
so Jacob's mistake is that he doesn't realize, wow, your brother, no, he really does want to leave. It's not just a game to him. He really wants to leave.
Yeah, and also, like
just want to make sure.
I feel like at the end he was just like, okay, I'm over this. I'm tired of playing the game. Kill me. I've done this long enough. Yes. Be done. And like you said, he then goes on to still continue to play the game by saying,
yes, he's still playing.
By saying they're coming or whatever, and then he shows up as a ghost to Hurley, and then he's like takes Saeed to the temple where he knows the temple water is ruined, and Saeed's going to turn out that way. And I'm like, what? You're helping him at this point.
Sure.
What are you doing?
And all of season 6, he continues to work with Hurley and help the story along. So you're right. He's continued to keep playing his game, even though he should be like, I'm out of here. But he's not. I have
a really annoying nitpick here. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
With it.
So,
which annoying nitpick is this?
It's number 53.
Number 53.
Okay.
That's not one of the numbers.
Oh, I know. It's one of the ones that... Jack, give me a break. Okay. Hugo says... Jacob calls him over, or Jacob says, "Hey, come over here." Or what does Jacob say? He makes himself aware to Hugo, and the next thing and Hugo is right next to Saeed, right? He's like right there, and like the next time you see them, Jacob is leading Hugo all the way back through thickets to get to the van where Saeed is. Well, geographically. Come on, man. If Jacob's a spirit, why are we wasting all this time with Saeed? I mean, come on.
Well, you had to have her. I think Hurley, he becomes more forceful in this episode, right? He becomes more of a.
They're definitely hitting that on. Yeah.
He's making a decision. Maybe that's what it was that when he grabs the gun, says, "I know how to use it." Of course, he's fumbling with the gun.
Oh,
he's the only person on the island that does not know how to use a gun.
There is a funny moment. That one. I think that one's funny.
Yeah.
When he's like, I have a gun and I know how to use it. And he's like trying really hard.
Well, Hurley's the only person
to use a gun.
Hurley's the only one that ever gives me especially during this final season, like Hurley's always the one you go to make me laugh. You know.
But even Hurley, when he was in there with Dogan and Lennon, he knows that Dogan speaks English. He's not translating.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Well, I don't like English on my tongue," or whatever he says.
They're definitely planting these Hurley little leadership seeds here and there.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm sure you guys will probably talk about this Jack, as you go through season 6, but the growth of Hurley to becoming this lovable, not always confident person to someone who, eventually is going to be helping running the island is great. It's fun to watch. It really is.
Well, it did start. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you also have the use of mirrors and like reflective surfaces a lot with each character throughout the season. And, first Jack right here on the plane with his neck and the cut. But you have that as if, the characters are like, is this me? Who am I? What am I? Things like that. And I think that's really reflective of the parallel type story they're trying to tell.
And I think Hurley's the only character that's not a complete 180 from where he started. You know what? Everybody is like, Sawyer was a complete jerk. Kate was like I guess she was a complete criminal. You know what I mean? But like, everybody makes this almost 180-degree turn, except for Hurley. He's already halfway there. He just needs to get pulled out of him, confidence-wise.
Well, he stops thinking he's jinxed.
Yeah.
Because I think they knew probably during season 3 that they were, because his character starts to change a little bit. He starts to become a little stronger and a little more, like you said, more confident, like they're saying in the chat. Like when he takes Sawyer and realizes, okay, we need to have, he actually starts changing Sawyer to being a better person. I mean, Juliet made him a complete better person, but when he says, they're going to throw you out. They're going to, they voted to throw you out and banish you. And he becomes a better person, a leader. Hurley started that. So I think Hurley, when Charlie dies, he becomes a little more stronger. I mean, everything happened for a reason with Hurley. And I think the writers knew, because if you go back and look at the scenes with Hurley, strong. And this, he's definitely like, he's saying, no, Jack, this is what we're going to do. No, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. He's not like, well, should we do this? Like, Hurley would have been, first 2 seasons. There was another funny scene though when Saeed was bleeding like crazy. He does say, "Oh, this is so gross." When Hurley, and there was a nice scene though. He said, "Don't worry, you can come talk to me anytime you want." when he thinks that Saeed is dead. But anyway, my main point, I think the writers did know that Hurley was going to be the new leader of the island.
And they also had him go through they also gave him, mental health problems like the whole time too. And they didn't stigmatize him with that in a negative way. Like in anything.
Yes.
Which was really good. Except, what's her name that died?
Libby.
They did to her with that one last shot of her.
The most mysterious character on Lost.
Libby?
Who is she? What is she really? I don't know. Every time I go through Libby's storyline, I think you guys talked a little bit about her in the last cast. Is that she is one of those? I'm like, I don't know. I still don't have a full answer about her. Right? She just, I don't know. There's so many questions.
Was she working for Widmore because she's the one that gave Desmond the boat? Right,
and it's a great question.
And where does the boat end up on?
I think Widmore could have easily took advantage of her emotional state at that point because clearly she lost it after her husband died, and I can see Widmore swooping in because of maybe her husband had some ties to him or something, and he knew they had money or whatever. But one of the comments said that they didn't think that Kate had changed overall. I would say that she. I think, she does become a better person. I think she changes. I think her whole reason for going back to the island was pretty clear in season 5. She made a point to say, I'm not going back for you, Jack, for you, Sawyer. I'm going back for Aaron and for Claire.
Yes.
And so, and it shows by her awakening in the finale. Jack doesn't awake her. Sawyer doesn't awake her. It's Aaron that does, and Claire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an important distinction. She leaves Jack behind to die to make sure she fulfills her promise of getting Claire back to Aaron.
Because that's a great point. Because when there was a scene where they're in New Otherton, and Claire's doing the laundry, and Aaron's crying, "Can you pick him?" And she's like, "All right." But then we see Kate off the island. She is a mom. She is, she's a parent. Yeah. She cares it, and she's willing to go to jail to save. And that's why I think she realized, okay, I need to reunite Aaron, like you said, with Claire, because there's a special bond there. And but even though she didn't know at the time, Claire has Squirrel Baby.
Let me tell you something. Okay, Allison, Janney, Kate. Okay. Allison, Janney, Kate. Okay, she wasn't that great of a mother.
Yes.
Allison, Janney, Kate's mom, and then Kate.
I thought Kate was a great mom.
I mean, Kate could have easily been like adoption, random baby on the island. Claire gave birth, died. I mean, they could have fabricated the story much more than they actually did.
The only thing I questioned Kate as a mother was when she left Aaron in a hotel room and went to go see Claire's mom. I said, "Come on."
Didn't she leave her in a hotel room
next door
with an armed son? With an armed son? Son with a gun?
Well, she didn't know.
With a gun. Yeah.
Son with a gun.
Yeah, but did she trusted son?
Son's out, guns out.
I think Kate was a great mom. I'm just gonna say that.
I'm gonna play middleman. I feel like Ethan's sort of right. I don't know if I want Kate babysitting my child necessarily, but I don't think.
Dude, she's got guns and cash everywhere.
Yes,
but
I don't think that she necessarily would have been a terrible mother. And going back to both what Caleb and Jack said, and for our viewer here that asked the question, is that we've talked about this a few times on this Lost Rewatch, is that if you're looking for the growth of Kate, it does come down to what happens once she is put in the motherhood role of Aaron. And I think that is a major growth, and all the things you just said, Caleb, about her quest and the reason why she's back on the island. And it's very noble, and it has to do with her heart and how she feels about this child. And I just feel like that's your growth. That's where, if you're looking for a change in Kate, there it is. And I think it's there. It's just maybe not very clear for the average casual fan, but I think if you look at it deep and down, that's where it's at. It really comes down to what happens there while she is off the island, and I really think that's what you gotta look to.
And she has enough awareness to know that she's not a great mother.
That's actually a good point, because she realized, wow, I got to get Claire because I don't know if I'm really good at this.
I'm losing it in the grocery store. This isn't right.
I do like the scene in the courthouse when her mom, is still alive. I don't know how she's made it, but she was still alive. They rolled her in, and
right.
She was like, I just want to see my grandson. I'll, testify for you. And Kate's like, I don't want you anywhere near my son. Mm-hmm. And I thought that's such a powerful moment.
It was.
No, like, we are done. Mm-hmm. And that's another way, she's trying to protect Aaron.
And that shows growth.
Yeah.
So there you go, viewer.
She also steals Jack's pen on the plane, which will come back later.
True.
Even in the finale.
In Jack's purgatory.
In Jack's purgatory.
Whatever you will call it. You got to use air quotes.
Yeah, I'm sure, Jack, you're gonna have everyone that comes on here is gonna have many feelings about the Flash Sideways, and that's one of the fun thing. I love hearing all of the hardcore fans' discussions and where they feel, how they feel about it today, what do they feel about it at the time.
Right.
It's fun. It's a fun talk. It really is.
I think that there's a lot of great things in these, 2 episodes, but like for it to end the way it did with, Saeed waking up and being like, what happened? I just find that so weak compared to the finale we just had with the incident. I feel like it's so weak.
Are you finding that weak now today after you've seen it many times? Or did you feel that way when you first watched it? Because okay. Because I had a different reaction. I think it's just because I know I'm not supposed to like Saeed, but at the time I was caught up in the moment. I was like, oh, thank God, maybe he's alive, because I'm already down because Juliet just died, and finding out, oh, maybe there's still hope for him. I felt like at the moment I was like excited about it. Now on a rewatch, I'm just like, yeah, whatever, saying, well, he's back, whatever. But at the time, I feel like it was. I was excited about this.
I do like what they did with him when he came back.
You did? Oh, wow.
At the beginning of what they did with him.
Oh, at the beginning. So the long term, what happens with him and his character, you're not excited about, but you did like the beginning of it.
Anything that happens on that effing submarine at the end of the series, I don't like.
Okay.
It has a lot to do with Saeed.
Very fair. It's fair. Okay.
I'm sorry with you.
Sorry, didn't mean to get mad.
It's okay.
Well, you guys mentioned before, Jack, right? The reason why and I know this sounds so sad to say, but the reason why we're losing Juliet and not losing Saeed is because of the fact that he's one of the original people. And that Juliet was somebody the writers felt like we can end her story. I know. I'm with you, guy. I'm with you, Caleb. I'm broken because we're losing Juliet.
Did she want to leave the show, or is it just
no, absolutely.
I know all the details.
They were throwing her series left and right, weren't they? She was on V. Wasn't
she was like the lead on
Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched everything she's done since she ended. I'm just saying. Yeah. I gave everything she's ever done.
Amazing on The Expanse.
Yes. Oh my God. My God.
I haven't seen that, so
just watch season 3. She's incredible. But I have to go back to the Saeed thing because I still find it as I still don't like it, and I think it's so weak because it has been established so many times that dead is dead. There's even an episode titled that. We understand that the smoke monster, Man in Black, blah, 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 can take the form of dead people. We get it. Locke, up until a certain point, this episode for some people, now we realize that's not him. Locke is dead because he died. Dead is dead. So for them to immediately reverse that and have a situation where, oh, nope, he was, but now he's not, was really kind of, I thought, in terms of the world they had built around death. They had visions. They had the smoke monster, taking the form of people, blah, blah, blah. I feel like this was a little bit kind of jumped the shark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, really? You brought him back? I mean,
Well,
okay.
Just now that I'm thinking about it, he's not actually dead until they drown him. Right? He's not dead when they take him to the water. So when they take young Ben Linus to the temple, do they drown him and so the good light gets into him and so he's healed? Is he, does it have something to do with the water and the fact that he's not dead when he goes in the water?
I don't think the good light got into Ben.
To fix the thing with the shot, with the bullet in the ouchie.
But to Caleb's point, I think that what the writers are selling to the audiences is that it's over, that Saeed is dead, that it didn't work, and he's dead, and then all of a sudden he's not. So I'm with you. I think you sold me on this, Caleb. I think this is a sloppy part of the writers because I do think that we've had this is a very bad because you could probably tell the whole Saeed thing. I was kind of done with it after a while, but now looking back on this, I think you're right. I think they made a huge mistake here on trying to sell us on something that we've been told dead is dead.
Mm-hmm. And it would have made more. It would have made more sense if he did die, because Jacob sent him there, and then if Jacob was unaware of the temple thing, then he wouldn't know about the water. And so, because he's dead and maybe, I don't know, he didn't realize the consequences, I don't know. But then it would make sense that he sent Saeed there hoping to bring back, but then it didn't work. And then there could be a whole conversation with Hurley being like, it didn't work. You said this was going to save him. And Jacob's like, ooh, I don't know.
Well, I think maybe the writers, they knew they're going to lose a popular character in Juliet, right? And Saeed, like Jeremiah, you said, he's as bad a person as he was.
We love him
on the island. You couldn't help but love Saeed. I've said 1,000 times he was the guy that should have been the leader.
Yeah, and one of the things they said in the chat is that they loved dark zombie Saeed. I guess there is some fun moments with dark zombie.
I think people love Naveen Andrews, and they didn't want it. They're like going, okay, we can't. Let's figure out something we can do with him.
Well, it was also a really, really dark premiere. I mean, you have you have the flash sideways there, but you think, okay, Juliet's gone. And then, Saeed's over here bleeding out. But then Juliet's stuck in the rubble. So you're like, oh, God, he's over here bleeding to death. And then she's stuck. What do they do?
That's a really good point.
Two main characters are on the verge of death, right? Season premiere. So it's dark. It's heavy. They hit the ground running with your emotions.
Right. Like I said, part one is this long goodbye to a beloved character. And then part two is so much focus on whether or not Saeed's going to live it, which is another character, like Jack said, love him or hate him. He was another fan favorite. So very dark. You're right. Hard to watch.
Yeah. Like I said, I was happy when he came back, but it's again, I was like most people as the season went on. I was like, they should have probably just ripped the Band-Aid off. And
is he going to do something or not?
Just remember further watching for this season how many long shots they had of him looking at his picture of Nadia. They had 2 uber long shots of him staring lovingly at the true love of his life.
That was that's who he should have went to the afterlife with.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I agree. I agree.
I'm with you on that.
I honestly feel like if this is the afterlife or whatever, certain people got things that other people did not. So you have Juliet, who she's divorced, but she's also in a happily divorce, I guess. It's a happy arrangement. So unlike her terrible, situation with her ex-husband, in reality, so you have Saeed, who kind of did some not good things and was one of the characters who did a lot of not good things and killed a lot of people. Here he is in his afterlife, and he doesn't get the woman he might truly love, he gets to see her with his brother. So I almost felt like this was a way, almost like a punishment, kind of like you get to see her, but she's going to be with your brother, and that's what you deserve because of what you did and how you lived your life. You know what I mean? There is that possibility.
But should he have gone? I mean, like I said, Michael doesn't get to go, but Saeed gets to go, and he gets to go with someone he loved on the island. You know,
true.
Ben was going to go, but Ben said, "Okay, I don't want to crowd the scene. I'll wait till the next time."
Juliet would have kicked his ass out that church.
But that's all the Jack can see.
He's like, "No, I hit the bomb. Go."
But I'm just saying, like you said, I could see that would be that makes a lot of sense that because he even says, he goes, "I've done a lot of terrible things. I don't know where I'm going to go. It's just he as he's laying there, I think it was Hurley he was talking to. He thinks, or it was Jack, I can't remember who it was, but it was actually a very good scene where he's, he knows that he's sinned. He knows he's done a lot of terrible things.
Oh, when Saeed says something like, no one can save me now, or something like that.
Right.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Ben did a lot worse than Saeed, so obviously he has a lot more growth that he needs to do in the flesh sideways before entering the church. And I think that Saeed's maybe last sacrifice and the growth that he experienced on the island helped him with that, but I don't think it takes away from the things that he did beforehand. And I think that's the way with several characters. Kate is still running, should she be? And a lot of other characters are not in ideal circumstances. Well,
I think in the Flash Sideways, they were also, because I've always had my theory has always been that Kate and the Marshal had something more, or at least the Marshal felt like there was something more between them than they already let on, because in the when she's walking, she calls Edwin. She doesn't call him the Marshal. She calls him by his first name. So were they telling us, okay, there was something more there between the Marshal, because he's too obsessed and he's too hurt to keep chasing after. It's like she's not. I've said this 1,000 times. Yeah, she did a couple bad things, but she's not public enemy number one. She's not a threat. I mean, she should do time for what she did, but she's not a threat to, she's not like a mass serial killer, or she's for him to be so obsessed with getting her when there's probably 10 most wanted on there that he could be going after, and he's not. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's the FBI equivalent of pulling the chair from under her in school.
Yeah.
Crush.
Yeah.
So he's going to keep chasing her.
So anyway.
Doesn't matter.
Even in the Flash Sideways, Kate's still trying to escape and finding a way to embarrass this guy. I'm sorry. It just cracks me up every time.
I have to circle back because I have one more question for you guys, and my last question, I promise.
Okay.
I think I've already.
Is it a nitpicky thing?
Is it a what?
Is it a nitpicky thing?
No, not really.
Okay, then I don't care.
Okay. Season 6, episode 1, Across the Sea. What do you think?
What? Oh, if you put like what they proposed in the last episode, if you watch Across the Sea as the season 6 premiere instead of LAX.
Mm-hmm.
And we wait for the answers on LAX the following week.
I mean, people are going to be mad about that, but then you don't have this thing at the end where they kill everyone and then stop all the action.
Well, I know Ralph made a good point I think it was Ralph last week. He said they should have maybe just did each episode had bits and pieces of Across the Sea.
Yeah. And actually, I like that suggestion.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think let's be honest, whether you do it here or you place it somewhere else, I think every fan of the show agrees that if you could have found another place to put that episode, it would have made the last season flow a lot better. But I think I could get on board with. I would like to see it. I've never done that, where I watched that before I watched this traditional premiere. I haven't done that yet, but I think I would do that, Ethan. I like that idea.
Yeah, and
see how I feel about it.
I think when series have sometimes they have weaker episodes at the beginning, they make it a 2 or 3 hour premiere, and I know The Sopranos did that in season 3. If maybe they make it a super mega 3 hour, season 6 premiere.
I also like Across the Sea.
I like Across the Sea too.
I enjoy the episode.
I do too.
I do too.
Like you guys mentioned last week, though, I think it all comes down to placement of the episode. You can look at this as an issue with a lot of shows that had a great run, but there's those times where there are certain seasons where you think, man, if they would have rearranged this a little bit, but I feel like this season would have gone a lot better. And this is obviously a great example of that.
I think Richard's episode was out of place also, to be honest. I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, but
I love that episode, though.
I love that episode, too. And that was kind of tied in because he's running away from something to something.
Right. I had a problem with Jacob, of course. Like, okay, you're immortal. There you go. You get what you want. But all these other people, he just lets them die. Okay. I have so many issues with Jacob.
I haven't noticed that. Okay.
but I go to Ethan's point about it being the first episode. Would the fans have complained about that?
No need for the stars. No need.
Would the fans
family friendly?
Would the fans have complained? Look, I waited 9 months and you start off with this. What happened with the bomb?
Yeah.
Can't please everyone.
Or do they put the beginning of maybe that we see the part where they're Kate's in the tree and stuff like that, and then then the next week we get the 2 LAX part 1 and 2 or whatever, how they showed it.
Well, like we mentioned in the last episode, the incident feels more like a premiere. So
that's true.
That would have enraged me if I had to wait months to see the incident.
Sure.
Yeah, but
what do you mean? We did. Oh, you mean? Never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But that's what I'm saying. If they start with Across the Sea, we're like, well, who's? Because they would have to have answered who Man in Black was before we saw Across the Sea. So they would have to answer that in the incident, right? Because we're like, well, who's that?
Yeah.
He's that. Well, why are you telling me that now? I think the problem might have been they waited too long for Across the Sea, and maybe they waited too long to reveal who Man in Black was.
And then they had the whole sideways thing, which they could have cut out.
Yeah.
So I think basically what we're saying is we do agree that the placement might have been in the wrong spot,
right?
But I do think though in the end though I think Jack, you're correct. If you had the 8-month layoff between the incident and then LAX. And if you would have jumped into Across the Sea, I think that would have probably pissed off a lot of fans. Now, because Monday Morning Quarterback, sure, yeah, I kind of like to see what it would feel like. But you have to think about what it was like as they're putting this together for television at the time. Nobody knows this stuff. We know all these things now. So now we kind of would like to see it maybe in that order. But I think you're right. I think they would have been really pissed if we didn't show what the immediate reaction to what happened after the incident.
Because you're losing that whole Man in Black bin scene where it's so intense inside the 4-toe statue, and it just you would lose. I mean, it's more complicated. It's harder to have a successful show than I think we us fans understand, because you have to have. Obviously, the writing, the story has to be correct. And this show that was so good, and we're still talking about it all these years later. We can go, okay, yeah, it was terrible. But I think there's a lot of pressure of any show that had to wrap it up. I think Lost had the most pressure because, again, it had been picked apart by podcasts, bloggers, the internet and chat room, message boards, whatever was back then. There was a lot of pressure on these guys to land this show, to be a little pun there, land this show properly. That they made some mistakes in season 6, but overall, it didn't tarnish a lot of people I know don't like Lost because of how season 6 ended.
And after I've sounded tonight, I don't want people to think I'm that person. I'm not. I love
No.
I love Lost. But it is the season where I kind of fast forward some parts to the most when I do rewatch it, which is often.
So Ethan, you do fall in the camp of that you're okay with the way the show ends.
Yeah, man, because I've talked to Jack numerous times and I've talked to Cable a little bit about this, but if emotionally it hits me the right way, like at the end, I can forgive a lot of things.
Sure.
And as far as that, almost ties with The Leftovers as far as the emotional impact that it hit me with at the end of this show. And for me, that's saying quite a bit. So
there you go.
Yep.
Perfect.
You?
Yep. No, I am a giant fan of the way the show ended for exactly the reasons you said. And even though I am not a fan of some things that happens in season 6, especially just the approach of the Flash Sideways, I think that I certainly would have done things maybe a little bit differently. But I understand what they're going for, and the emotion was there, and man, it landed for me. But I'm also someone who understands what happened there. I'm also someone who pays attention to what they actually said and don't have stupid theories about what really was happening in their own mind. But
it's the staying power too. Like if I were just to pop in the end right now and watch it, I would still be like a puddle on the floor by the end of it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Much time with it.
Do you think they put the Flash Sideways in there to mess with the people that thought they were dead the whole time? Just to
of course they did.
Screw you. This is how we're going to do it, and you're going to think they were dead the whole time, but we don't care.
I don't care what interview you hear them say. I'm sorry. They did a lot of that to kind of mess with us just a little bit. Maybe not fully, but they were messing with us.
TV writers' prerogative. You know what I mean? They give us so much joy. Let them take it out of the people, because people still unironically say they were dead the whole time.
I run into people all the time. And again, I've said it. I don't even bother correcting. I know people will fight with people, but I go, okay.
The only worst people are people that call the song Teenage Wasteland and not Bob O'Reilly. I can't stand those people.
Basically, I think I mentioned this on the last time I was on, is that when I run into those people, I let them say what they want to say, and then I unfriend them.
So if anybody out there is, listening to this, I always explain it for people who really do not get it. I explain it as, have you seen the movie Titanic? And they always say, yeah, of course I have. And I say, how does it end? And they say, well, Rose is, an old woman and she dies in her bed. And I said, no. That's not how it ends. How does it end? Think real hard. Some people will remember, some won't. But what happens?
Tracking shot through the thing.
What?
Tracking shot through the boat. Them dancing.
Okay. So what happens is it shows Rose as the young version of herself walking up the staircase to meet Jack, how he looked during the time of the Titanic, and everybody else that was on the ship. And I say that for two reasons. First of all, well, if Kate went on and said, I missed you so much, Jack, and she lived a long life, why does she look the same? The same reason Rose looked the same when she got on the ship again, because it was her afterlife, and the most important of the part of their lives was the time they spent together, and so that's how they would look to each other. So that is how I kind of sum up the afterlife or Flash Sideways for people, as in this is a way for them to let go, blah, 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 find each other again to move on, blah, blah, blah.
So Rose wanted to spend her afterlife with a guy she knew for a week, who she let drown and freeze to death, and not her husband and her two kids.
I think she just knows that Leonardo DiCaprio wouldn't go for that.
I get it. He was hot. I get he's young. Like that. We never see her husband, but she did have a husband, and she did have children. So she wants to spend her afterlife with someone she knew for a week. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Oh man.
It was a good week though. Good week.
It was a solid week.
Except for that whole, boat drowning thing.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. I'm just trying to be the guy that's like going, okay.
Yeah, I don't.
If I spent 50, 60 years with somebody, it's almost like an obligation that I go, okay, I got to spend the rest of it.
You would think.
But the most important part of her life was the time she spent with the people on the boat.
Here's all I'm saying. We understand that. I understand that. Jeremiah understands that. Jack understands that. If someone doesn't understand that by now, then I will let my freak flag fly with you guys and talk about it over and over and over again instead of trying to explain to some guy who probably says that because they know it annoys you. You know.
Well, Libby and Hurley didn't know each other that long, and a lot of the characters on Lost didn't know each other that long.
You think he saw Libby again when he was running the island by himself? They're hanging out a bunch.
No.
Well, he said she visits him all the time.
Cool. There you go.
He did.
He said
Anna Lucia was like, Libby says hi.
Yeah, but he said he talks to Libby. I swear I remember seeing that.
Oh, I think he talked to her like grave when Alana walked up and was like, "Oh, I'm talking to her."
That's why I love these rabbit holes can go on and on and on, and we can find a new one. I got 3 more.
I could be wrong, but I think that he did say that he does see Libby.
Honestly, Sawyer and Kate.
She's holding blankets with 2 holes in them.
Sawyer and Kate knew each other or knew of each other for over 3 years, but how much time did they really spend with each other? Not very long.
I don't know, but
because when they
in my head for the rest of the night, so thanks.
What?
Celine Dion's in my head for the rest of the night now, so thanks.
Oh, well, that's not that bad.
I'm king of the world.
It's a good thing.
Yep.
Anyway,
she's amazing.
Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Oh yeah, I got tons, but I'm not going to.
Juliet saved everybody, and that's what happened.
That's really
they reinforced it.
You know what? They should have just ended the series. Should have just ended on that note. Just should have stopped right there, right?
Juliet's our savior.
I agree with you.
She's in the little grave that Sawyer built. She goes, it worked. Boom. Fade to black. Loss is over.
I like it. No, I definitely think we covered these 2 episodes pretty well, and then some.
Yeah. No, it was great chat. I enjoyed it.
It's good conversation.
All right, Jeremiah, you do podcasts.
What's that?
You have podcasts you want to talk about?
Oh, I mean, I'm back doing some stuff for JP Unplugged, and I've recently started my rewatch of every season of Survivor in only effort to rank every season, because fans all the time, they say, Jeremiah, what's your favorite season? I'm like, let me think about it. So now I am going to rank them. I made a score sheet, and I'm ranking characters and moments, and by the time I'm done, I'm going to have a number for every season. I could tell you where it's going to fall on my. It's a lot of work. It's ridiculous. So I don't know why I'm doing it. It'll probably take me forever to finish it, but that's what I'm doing. And then I'm also still podcasting over at Mouse House Weekly, where we talk about Disney, all things Disney. So you can check that out as well. But yeah, I'm back podcasting again. It's been a lot of fun.
I'm just going to say I've seen every Survivor episode. I got to go with season 1.
Season 1's your favorite. Interesting.
It was because it sold me on the show.
That's a fair point. Without season 1,
I've gone back and watched it again, and there's we all complain about Jeff talking too much. But in this season 1, he doesn't talk a lot, and it's kind of like
season 1 is a. Yeah, I've released my podcast on that one, and I can tell you right now, season 1 is hands down the most different than any season you'll ever watch. It's almost like a docuseries. It really does feel like you're watching a bunch of people who are trying to survive on an island, and it's a very different show. So I understand.
All right, I have to go back and I'll listen to that. Caleb.
Yes, you can find me at Caleb is Lost on pretty much all of social media. I also struggle with mental illness, and I wrote a book about it, a book of poetry. It's called Harnessing Darkness, Expressing Mental Illness Through Poetry. You can find it Amazon, online, various bookstores. Check that out, and be sure to go vote or send in your absentee ballot.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Ethan, do you do anything?
I'm reviewing every Who album because it's what I know like the back of my hand. The Who on the Fisher Protocol. It's the YouTube show, and if I'm doing anything in the future, I'm waiting to hear from Jack. The plan is still the plan. He'll let us know.
It's still there, but just got to get through this now.
Yeah.
Well, leftovers is
hopefully me and Jack and some others will rewatch The Leftovers. I know I posted something about the departure day 4 days ago, and Caleb got into a very healthy discussion with someone else, and I just had to stand back. I'm saving it up. We're going to talk about it.
I thought I answered everything saying they were dead the whole time. I thought that answered all the questions.
And I thought you were right, but man, that rabbit hole is deep, and I can't wait to do it. I'm not going to do it 140 characters each time.
It's 280 now, isn't it?
Still not enough.
Anyway, this was a great chat, great discussion.
Good time.
If I stall just a little longer, we can make it 2 hours, like 12 seconds away. But
all right, let me remind you that I've requested for the Lighthouse.
Oh, that's a good one.
With the Who poster in it.
Oh, that's a good
one.
And kid has a Who poster in his room, so
I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah.
You can send me a message and.
Juliet's not back till the finale, so I know that's a big one. You'll probably want whoever on there, but I like Juliet Excess. The candidate's also a good one.
I'm still coming up with ideas for the finale. I think.
Yeah,
I'll figure it all out.
I think you should do Across the Sea 100% solo. It should just be you.
Ooh.
Jack.
No, I think you need to have somebody who really likes it and really hates it. Like, was it Ralph who hates it?
Ralph hates
it. I like it.
I'm gonna make Ralph do it because he doesn't like it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that may be.
But that's a good idea, Caleb. I like that one. Someone who's pro and con.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can find people that hate it. So
that's true.
I'm not a fan of the Richard Alpert centric episode,
oh, there you go.
Which really blows people's minds, but especially because I like Across the Sea. So if you want a conflicting opinion on that one, I'll do that one.
I love Album Journal. I think it's a fantastic. It just again, it could have been the placement and what happened and
right. Yeah.
But anyway.
But thank you for having me. It was fun. It was a lot of fun tonight.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank you so much. It was nice meeting you.
I am upset that the Dodgers are winning right now 4-3.
You had to bring us down. Come on, man.
Sorry.
I got a cue for that. Don't watch sports.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, me either.
Less stress in your life, I'm sure.
When my owner becomes worse than Spanos, that's what I'm doing.
And thank you to all the. By the way, thank you to all the comments people on the viewing. We really appreciate it.
I know. Yes, absolutely.
Light it up tonight.
Sorry about the language earlier.
That's no big deal. No big deal. All right, guys. We're up.
Bye.